Welcome to another episode of the Contagious Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle King, and the goal of this podcast is to help you create an ecosystem of academic excellence. Through inspiring conversations, practical strategies, and actionable insights, we empower educators, change makers, and leaders just like yourself, foster trust, collaboration, and ultimately provide them the tools, the methodologies, and the tricks to create an ecosystem for academic excellence. Every organization has culture, whether it was intentional or by accident. And the truth is that culture has nothing to do with the mission statement. It all starts and begins with leadership. Now, whether you're a mom, a dad, a CEO, or a husband or a wife, the way leaders show up and speak and make decisions creates the invisible atmosphere that ultimately everyone around them or everyone within their organization or everyone within their family can feel. And they breathe that energy on a daily basis. And one of the things that we talk about often on the Contagious Culture Podcast is the energy you bring is the culture you create. So today we're going to talk about how leadership is where culture begins. And as I was reflecting on this episode, it made me feel and think about how I've been as a leader, how I've been in the multitude of titles that I wear as a leader. But ultimately, it made me think about how I am as a dad. And it's interesting how children will look at you for responses when things happen, when things shift, and when things either go well or when things don't necessarily go in the way that you wanted them to go. And what they're looking for is your response, your reaction, your tone, your ability to navigate or solve problems. And all of that is creating not only an invisible atmosphere, but it's also communicating to them what is acceptable. It's also communicating to them when problems arise, how do I handle it? It's also communicating to them when we are celebrated, how do I handle it? It's also communicated to them all of these small norms, all of these small behaviors, all of these small habits that sometimes we overlook when we're doing them. That is where culture begins. So I'm going to talk about a 3-step model that I use when I'm coaching clients. And then we're going to break down some questions that I want you to consider so that we can begin to approach leadership a lot better. One of the questions that was asked to me such a long time ago by a mentor, a coach, and a leader of mine is, what type of leader do you want to be? And at the time, frankly, I didn't know. And I knew the type of man that I wanted to be. I wanted to be someone that was trusted. I wanted to be someone that was integral. I wanted to be someone that could be counted on. I want to be someone that could drive results. I want to be a great communicator and influential and all of these things. And my mentor asked me at that time, well, what are the behaviors that have to show up in order for you to be those characteristics? And he said, oftentimes we stand in the characteristics, but don't commit to the behavior. It's, I want to be a good husband, but I am not communicating. I want to be a good dad, but I am never present with my children. See, I may have characteristics that I may want to embody, but if I'm not committed to doing the behaviors consistently, even when they're challenging, then it's hard for me to actually become that person or become that leader. And one of the things that I talked about in a previous episode is being, doing, and then having. If you want to have influence, you have to do something to even get influence, but you have to become the type of person that can commit to doing that type of action consistently so that you can begin to have the result. And I think the same thing is true in leadership. So when I thought through 3 types of people that I believe every leader should have in approaching and answering this question of what type of leader do I want to be? So the first step before we even get to those types of people that I want you to consider is writing down all of the characteristics that if you were the absolute greatest person that you could possibly be, what are all of those characteristics? Whether it's honesty, whether it's someone that honors commitments, whether it's someone that is a good steward of their finances, whether it's someone that is highly regarded as a great speaker, like what are all of those things? The next step that I want you to consider is what are all of the behaviors that you have to showcase over a period of time for you to accomplish those things, or for it to result in you being called those things. Once we understand those three or those two questions, I want you to think of three people in your life that can be a model, a mirror, and a map. Your models, your mirrors, and your maps. And I want you to write this down. If you're listening to this in the car, pull over, and I want you to write this down. If you're listening to this or watching the video, I want you to write this down. So when I look at models for me, and this is the educator brain in me, models for me are the people that can advance you forward. They're the role models. They're the people that you may look at as afar, and those people, I like that. Models are the people that you want to emulate. These are the people that there's something in them that you see, that you love, that you're inspired by or motivated by, whether it's how they dress or how they communicate or how they show up or how people receive them or whatever the case may be. For me, it's interesting because I started going really to church in college on my own accord because there was a gentleman on campus by the name of Adrian Davis at the time that was probably the sharpest dressed young man on campus. And I would always want to move like him because I loved the way that other people responded when he was in a room. And I just remember him sitting on the steps at campus in like the yard area. And he was, it looked like he was mentoring or coaching or giving a word to various men that were around him. And they were taking notes and they were nodding their head. And I'll never forget that feeling because I was like, I want to be the person that is able to coach and mentor, or people are able to receive or look at me in the ways that they looked at him. So I reached out, we connected, and then I found out that he was a pastor at one of the churches in Huntsville, Alabama. At that time, I fell in love with his ability to be able to preach on Sundays and his ability to be able to break down the word and all of these different things. He was a model for me on the type of response, on the type of clothing, on the type of behaviors, on the type of things that he was doing to be able to ultimately drive impact. The second person that I believe that a lot of us have, but a lot of people don't put value in, is what I call a mirror. These are probably people that you're close with. These are probably, could be a spouse, could be a partner, an intimate partner, could be potentially a colleague or a boss that most times you probably butt heads with. A mirror is a person that has a lot of value, but their value is in exposing your flaws. One of the things that I've recognized is oftentimes if you have certain challenges that you're not strong in, whether that challenge is communication, whether that challenge is showing up to places on time, whether that challenge is honoring your commitments, this is the person that probably always calls you out on it. This is the person that makes you uncomfortable in those spaces. And when I think about that uncomfortable feeling, oftentimes it looks like we're being attacked or being criticized or someone's bickering and complaining. But one of the things that my father always said growing up is, if I'm speaking to you, that means that I care. You should start worrying when I stop saying something. And he used to always say that to his players as a coach. And it really never dawned on me until later in life, because when you get silent, you've given up. So who was the person that calls you out on your BS? Who was the person that exposes an area of weakness or a gap or an opportunity for you to grow where you could improve upon? So you have your model, the person that you want to emulate for all of the great characteristics. but who is your mirror that exposes all of the weaknesses or areas of opportunity that you could potentially grow in as well. And then we have my favorite is the maps. These are the people that aren't models, they aren't maps. These are people that have game. Potentially, these are the people that provide you the blueprint, similar to a map, people that guide you and show you the way. This could be a coach, this could be a life coach, a mentor, a therapist. These could be those types of people that can guide you to getting where you want to be tactically. So let's say you want to write a book. Well, who's your who that have done that at scale that can help you write a book? Let's say you want to save more money. This is that person that is going to help you accomplish those goals because they have a blueprint, a roadmap, a game plan for you to be able to get to that specific place. So again, what type of leader do I want to be? We have to ensure that the characteristics align with the behaviors. And then it's important that we understand who is our model, who is our mirror, and who are our maps. If you have those three people, then it's important for you to be able to get to step 2, which is what's 1 to 2 challenges that keep coming up. I asked someone to mentor me a few weeks ago, and similar in these types of conversations, the question then led to, well, what are some of the things that you're struggling with? Or what are some of the things where you want to be mentored? And I started naming all of these different things, and this is what I want, and the vision and the goals and all of these various opportunities that I want to be able to create and afford myself. And they stopped me in my tracks and they said, Kyle, it's not about where you want to go, because where you want to go, you won't get there if there's certain challenges that continue to come up on your road to greatness. And it stopped me for this one reason. It stopped me because I recognized there was one area that was an Achilles tendon for me that showed up on multiple occasions, both personally and professionally. And we needed to unpack that a little bit. And we needed to put parameters and systems and various things in place for me to improve upon that so that it shows up in all aspects in my life. So one of the things that I want you to think about is quick hack is, what are the things that you need to keep doing in regards to things that are working for you? But what are the things that you need to stop doing? Things that are clearly not working for you, like consistently. And what are things that you need to start doing? Things that you have potentially been holding off, things that you know you need to be integrating or doing, and they just haven't been working out for you. And whether that's going to the gym, whether that's setting a boundary with that friend or that colleague, what are these things that you need to keep doing that are working, stop doing because they're not working, and start doing because they'll be able to fast track you to the person or to the leader that you're destined to become. So for me, what I recognize is setting boundaries has always been easy for me. Communicating boundaries has always been easy for me. But the enforcing of boundaries with family, friends, colleagues, that has always been the Achilles tendon. And what I recognize in having a conversation with my coach and my mentor is behavior are the best enforcers of boundaries. And there's 2 questions that she asked me last week. She said, how did I communicate to people when those things happen? And then how are you behaving and demonstrating this boundary when you're communicating with people? And those 2 questions really unlocked something for me, and it required me to reflect and do some journaling and go into prayer and read a book and order some books so that I can be able to be more aligned. But then I started documenting how this showed up professionally, how this showed up personally, how this showed up in relationships, how this showed up in regards to my family, whether it's parents, whether it's children, and all of these areas, because how you do anything will show up everywhere. How you do anything will show up in everything. Most times, if you're not integral in business, you'll probably will have those same tendencies in relationships. Most times, if you're not a hard worker in this area, it will probably show up in other areas. It's not just isolated where I only do this over here and I'm not doing that over there. So how can I ensure that I'm improving on the challenges and these pitfalls, these gaps that are stopping me and slowing me down from becoming the person, the leader that I am destined to become so that I can be able to empower my team in an intentional way? Third question, which is the most critical question, is what are the things that you need to remove completely? What are the things that you need to kill? I was watching both Hidden Figures, but then the newest Fantastic Four movie. And there was a scene on Fantastic Four where their spaceship was going up into the orbit, but before it got to orbit, the boosters fell off and they dropped away. And I've seen this happen a multitude of times in various shows or movies where people were going to space and you see the boosters fall off. And what this reminded me of is when a rocket ship is going up, the blasters fall off before it goes to orbit. But what are the things as you are going up that need to fall off, or what are the things that are stopping you from going to orbit? What are the things, the norms that need to be removed, the habits that need to be removed, the people that need to be removed, the behaviors or the doubts or the perspectives or the patterns that need to be removed from your leadership so that they can be able to enhance your ability to be able to lead people? What are the things that are stopping you, that are stopping you from getting to the destination that you're supposed to get to? I was having a conversation with a colleague of mine yesterday, and she was explaining to me how she wishes that all leaders would ask the history of their team so that they can recognize the baggage that comes with them, but then also recognizes how many people have different tools in their toolbox to be able to enhance their learning environment. She also communicated how some experiences are expensive to the point where that person is still bankrupt from a specific experience, and that bankruptcy shows up as baggage in current circumstances. And it was so profound and powerful when she communicated that, because I think it's important for us as leaders to ask these types of questions to our team members, ask these types of questions in the interviewing process, ask these types of questions so that we can ensure, similar to Jim Collins' rule, that we can have 90% of people on the right seat on the bus as we were moving to our specific destination. We have to understand what type of leader we are. We have to understand our models, our mirrors, and our maps. We have to ask ourselves, what are we going to keep doing, stop doing, and start doing so that we can understand the challenges that are stopping us from being able to get to the place that we need to be able to get to. But we have to also understand what are the things that we need to remove. What are the areas, the norms, the habits, the beliefs of the boosters that need to fall off so that we can go up? It's important for us to ask and be equipped with being able to communicate and inquire from our team so that we know who's who has what, but then who potentially has certain things that need to be worked out so it doesn't hinder our ability to be able to move forward. Here's a few questions I want you to consider as you go off. Here's your homework. What does my team need? And who do I need on my team? What mindset shifts do I need to make in order for me to be better for my team? What systems do I need to put in place both personally and professionally so that I can be able to be a better leader, coach, mentor, and the person that can be effective as the leader that my team needs? What are certain disciplines that I need to have in place so that we can ensure consistency, but then also efficiency and effectiveness? And the last question is, what is the problem I am seasoned in solving in this season? I'm going to ask that again. What is the problem I am seasoned in solving in this season? Every organization has a culture, whether it's intended or on accident. And the culture that we set has nothing to do with just mission statements. It has to do with our leadership. And leadership is where culture begins, and our behaviors and our attitude and our energy that we bring as the culture that we create. It's time for us to be better so that we can produce better, so that we can impact further. I thank you all for joining another episode of the Contagious Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle King. And this week, I want you to ask yourself a question. What culture am I spreading? Culture is in everything and is everywhere. Make yours worth catching. We'll see you next time.